another one. This is one of the ones that I do most. This is one of the ones I've kind of come up with. But where did that piece go? So to save a bit of time, I am fast. So what this is here is a treble hook. Okay, and with what I've done here is I've created a tail for a musky fly. So with this one here, I've got about 9 feathers around this treble hook, so you put 3 in each space of the trebles and a little bit of flash. So again, not rocket science, you tie the feather in. They sit really nice in that V-shaped notch in a treble hook. Most fly fishermen say treble hook, that's not fly fishing. Well, if you go to Norway, you're going to have a treble hook sticking out of your tube fly for Atlantic salmon. It's, as my friend I was talking to today, Larry McGrattan, said way back in the day, and I still remember, you're your own liquor control board. So if it's within the law and you can feel comfortable doing it in your own head, like if it's legal, go for it. And treble hooks, unless you're in single point barbless fly water, which we don't have any of in Ontario, then that's legal. And for musky, with clients, this helps. These are training wheels, and when you only see, on some days you only see 2 or 3 fish in a day, even experienced people like training wheels. 3 points are better than 1 to get into a fish's mouth. And it can hit from any angle, because a musky's mouth is all bone and teeth. And if you don't set the hook properly with a good strip set, you don't always get that hook to hold. And even when you do, you don't always get it to hold. So having it 3 different angles covered with your hook makes it, the hook is not the issue. Anyway, so I've got a treble hook, and it also is nice and round, creates a perfect profile at the back. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shank. Anyone here figured out what shanks are, or seen how they work? Has anyone come to the club and tied game changers or any of that kind of stuff? Although game changer, I don't think there's anyone fast enough in the province, except maybe me, to tie a game changer in a normal fly session here. They take a long time when you're tying 5 or 6 shanks, and then the head of the fly and the eyes and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, you put a shank through the hook here. And it's metal. It hooks in the vise real nice here, just like that. And with that hook, it's sprung it a little bit. One thing I often do that I didn't do here is that you can use a split ring, and you can put your back hook on a split ring. That way, if your feathers do get destroyed, you could just take it and put a new tail on the back of it. It's a good technique. I could still do that. I would lose this hook. I'd have to cut this hook off, and I could put a split ring and add a tail to rebuild this one if I wanted to. So now I've got this shank tied together, and it's stronger than the tube fly system that I've used for years.
And you get more motion out of this.
It's jointed, yes. So it's not a solid shank, and you can get some good motion out of it.
That's your middle name, isn't it, Mr. Jointed?
Mr. Jointed. Well, yeah, I have done jointed flies quite a bit.
Yeah, quite a few.
Now, I could just start into the bucktail, but adding a little bit of flash never hurt anybody, and a little bit of bulk. This is one way to prop up bucktail, is through using a bump of chenille. So I've created a chenille ball. And a little bit of head cement. Now I'm going to put some bucktail in there. I've got a bunch of bucktails. I think it's, no, that's the stuff I want here. Some average bucktail. Cut a clump off close to the skin. A bit bigger than average. Clean the short stuff out of the base of it. Then I like to square the ends up. Put 3 or 4 wraps, and now I'm going to use my thumb and finger to space that around the chenille ball.
Can you quickly just describe how you hold that on top of you make it look so easy, but it does tend to squirm around, doesn't it?
It can.
So can you just go through the wraps that you do there?
So I square it off, and then I put 3 or 4 wraps back, maybe a 1/4 inch onto the bucktail, and then I squish it so that it spreads itself around. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap back in towards that chenille bump with nice tight wraps, and that's going to help flare it out a little bit there. So that, see how that's sticking out maybe at a 30-degree angle? That's one way of getting a ramp to make your bucktail work and hold some body to it to help make your fly a little bigger. Now after that, what do we want? We want some flash in this thing, right? This fly. Flash is another attractor. So I'm going to put some Flashabou, fold that in. So now there's some silver in there. There's another way to spread this out, and this one, yeah, let's do. So has anyone here heard of Blaine Chocolate?
Yeah.
He's a very innovative tyer, and if you have the chance to see him tie, do it. And there's a great opportunity coming up this weekend to see him tie pretty close to here. He's one of the headliners at the Midwest Fly Fishing Expo that's in Dundee, Michigan, or no, it's Warren, Michigan now. It's not in Dundee anymore. That is put on down there this weekend, so he'll be down there doing this kind of stuff. But with this, I cut off a little over an inch long piece of tubing, and then tie it down nice and secure. Oh, I see a few frays there, so I'm going to give it a little more of a little more singe. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this tubing inside out. So I'm going to turn it all the way inside out over this, and then I'm going to pull it back so that the butts are right at where my thread is. Of course, it doesn't go perfect the first time. I should have done this as my warm-up fly. This is a smaller shank, so the vise isn't liking it as well.
It's alive.
Steve, this is sort of familiar to what Jack Garside used to do all the time, isn't it?
He did some similar stuff, absolutely.
Yeah,
So I'm going to tie that off. And is there ever too much goo on a musky fly? And now when I push this back, oh, why is it sticking there? Oh, it's stuck on the end of I can't win for losing on this one. Sorry about that. This should come back as a real nice cone shape spacer. That's not doing too bad. A little more work than it should be, but there is a nice cone shape created out of that plastic kind of corset tubing. And what I can do now is I can ramp some, I'll reattach the thread. Yeah, let's use the thin stuff. And what I did with this, I always do it off my lap, so it's tough to see. But you grab a clump like you mean it, and then you pull it up high, and then you clip it down near the skin, and you'll end up with relatively square ends. So to prepare the bucktail from there, I grab it about midpoint, and then I just run my fingers through it. You see the short junk that I'm pulling out of here? That's cleaning the bucktail. And you could use a comb, but just teasing that with your fingers, it does a good job with the bucktail. And note, I'm quite firm. Anytime you hold bucktail, hold it like you mean it. If you let your fingers go loose and let it slide around, you're going to have a mess and you're going to have to start over again. That's usually what happens. And then I'm going to switch hands, and then I'm like, hold it like I mean it. See, it's not quite even at the end there, so I'm going to square it up with my scissors. And now that's a nice, easy to control piece of bucktail that I can put in. For clouser or minnows, that's imperative. That's how I've gained that skill, is through tying a bazillion clouser or minnows and practicing that. So I tied it in again, 1/8 to 1/4 inch of the bucktail, 5 or 6 wraps, and then use your thumb to spread it where you want. And then if I go into right at the base of this tubing, it will flare it up a little bit more. So you see how that again is ramped up and around? That creates some body to that fly. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom with some white stuff. Some white bucktail. So grab the clump I want. Sometimes you can give it a little twist. Make one clean cut. Clean. Trim. Again. Leave a little bit out front so it's not going to slide off. And then 5 or 6 tight wraps, and then wrap back towards that corset tubing and give it a little twist to make it flare out. So that's 2 methods of making bucktail spread out. I still have enough real estate on this hook shank. I can show you all 3 methods to do it on one shank. So that's 2 methods. Now the other method is a method that was popularized by one of my favorite fly tyers, Bob Popovic's. And this is called hollow tying. Again, you prepare the bucktail the same way. But this time, I'll do the bottom first. You go in reverse. So it's hollow tie or reverse tie is another name for it. So do you remember how I did that tying with the craft fur? Does this look similar maybe? It's the exact same technique, just with a different material. Bucktail has a little more body. Some people prefer to work with it. Some people think it's tougher. It's just what you like to tie with. Some people like the softness of craft fur and can manage it better. Other people do better with this stuff. Same thing, and I want the wraps to be the same distance forward on both of those materials is the important part. And then with 2 colors you can, actually I'm going to do this one the right way.
Looks like a black day.
So you can use your pen tube to pull that back, or your fingers, and getting stuck in treble hooks. It's lots of fun. Now this one I'm wrapping in front of it and building a ramp back up onto that bucktail as best as I can. And you see how I'm getting a ton of body here. The more I go back, the more it will taper back and come into control. But for musky flies, you want to create a fair amount of bulk with, or profile without the mass of bucktail. One whip finish is good. What's better? 2. And is there ever enough Sally Hansen on a fly? Dry flies you can go over. So there's a nice fly if you want to fish that. Lots of profile. Someone was talking about scent earlier. There's a little bit of scent, my blood. So there's a joint there that treble hook will wiggle, and you've got the bulk of the bucktail.